Denzel Aberdeen is committed to Kentucky. Uh, Caught us a bit off guard, Riley. One, that Aberdeen hit the portal at all, and then to make an in-conference transfer to Kentucky, I think caught us by surprise as well. We'll dive into the decision a little bit later, but just initial reactions to his fit at Kentucky. What do you think?
I mean, it's tough not to love the fit of any guard that Mark Pope wants. It seems like he gets the most out of those guys. Like this past year, I would be surprised if like every guard in the country isn't wanting to play for this guy based on the amount of easy looks they get and the freedom they have to shoot threes. But yeah, definitely caught me off guard. It seemed like the early smoke was like Texas Tech came in hot with momentum for Aberdeen, and then it really seemed like the Cats came out of nowhere on this one. So you have to tip your cap to Mark Pope because it seems like whether it's him, whether it's his donors, his general manager, whoever's working on these deals, like they definitely come through with how do I want to put this? Almost like a god, it's like a Godfather type move. Just be like, oh, you thought he was going to Lubbock, and he's mine now. He's going to Lexington.
Yeah, this seemed to be a move that was motivated by monetary reasons, right? That's the only logical reason you can think of why a Florida kid who spent 3 years in the Florida program would leave. Kentucky came with a good offer in this. I don't know if it was the highest or whatever, but I do know that Kentucky came with a pretty good offer in this. What kind of impact do you think he can have for the Wildcats next season? Because it's a team that was going to rely on some younger guards and is still going to, but now you have a senior with championship pedigree.
Yeah, they have a deep guard group, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's like the most proven. Like Jasper Johnson, I know he's a high level shot maker, definitely dealt with some inefficiency throughout high school, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that trend come back up during SEC play. Like I think Johnson, I'm high on his ceiling, but I think it might take him a little bit of time to get his feet under him. I love Colin Chandler. I thought he was awesome down the stretch for them over their last 8 games. He shot 12 for 23 from three. Good defender, really solidified those backup point guard minute roles. I wouldn't even be surprised if he ends up better than Jelon Lowe, like by the end of the year. That might seem a little bit like lofty expectations, but Lowe, he's going to be an interesting case study where it's like, does the inefficiency, do those concerns stop now that he's just in a better system with better talent around him and he's not playing for Jeff Capel anymore? But I think between those two, the point guard spot should be solidified, and I think it's a good spot for Aberdeen to take that next step in his development. Like you said, it does seem like it could have been financially driven just because like there were minutes to be had at Florida. Like
Yeah.
he's stepping into the starting two guard role there without much competition. But I would guess like he will find minutes here with the amount of guards that Pope plays and he goes deep into his bench. Like I think he's going to have a big opportunity here. But because of the presence of Lowe and Chandler, I think it will free him up to do what he does best, which is score. Like that was his role on this Florida team. He was the spark plug off the bench, good shooter, can knock him down off the catch, can do a little bit off the bounce. I think his mid range, his floater game is pretty good. He can make plays off of 2 feet when he gets into the paint. He really will have an opportunity to show all that he's capable of. With that being said, I do think it's like a little bit of a risk for Kentucky too. Like there is a chance he's just a potential guy, and maybe he doesn't shine with extended minutes. But I guess that like from Kentucky's perspective, that is where it's nice to have other guards around him as well that you can lean on if he doesn't completely pan out how you hope.
What do you make of Aberdeen? Do you think he's a potential guy, or do you think he's somebody who just necessarily wasn't given the role to thrive the way he potentially could?
This might be a cop out answer, but had he stayed at Florida, I would have bought a breakout for him. And now that he's going to Mark Pope, I'm also buying a breakout for him. Like he seems like a smart kid in the sense that he would have played for one of the best coaches in the country, and now or he's played 3 years for one of the best coaches in the country, like one of the best, probably the best up and comer, going to be the hottest name now as like the best 40 and under coach after winning a national championship. But he made a smart move to go to a school that has another really high level coach who knows how to scheme up good offensive looks, and who knows how to maximize his players. So yeah, had he transferred to Kansas State or something, a school that's known to just throw around bags without much of a plan, I'd be like, yeah, Aberdeen's going to average 11 points per game, shoot 40% from the floor, and he's going to be in the NIT. But going to like the right scheme, the right fit, it's not just it's a 1 year sample size with Pope at Kentucky, but if you just look at his track record before that, both at BYU and Utah Valley, he's maximized his guard prospects to where, yeah, I don't know. I'm not ready to say Aberdeen's going to become an all SEC caliber player, but I think you're going to see the best, if not the best version of him, like close to it.
We interrupt this sleepers video to tell you about an offer from Underdog Fantasy. Cart, you love Underdog Fantasy, correct?
Of course I do. Can I have a moment real quick?
Please. Thank you for that. In fact, I'm going to cut you off because our listeners like when we keep these short and sweet. Underdog Fantasy. Sign up as a new user. Use promo code SLEEPERS. Get bonus funds up to $1,000, 50% of your deposit match. The NBA playoffs are rocking right now. I played Underdog last week with a Cade Cunningham line. I'm looking forward to doing it throughout the entire first round of the NBA playoffs, but there's more. You can place picks on golf. You can place picks on baseball. You can place picks on the NHL playoffs that are rocking right now. Join Underdog Fantasy, promo code SLEEPERS. Support this show so that we can keep bringing videos to you. Back to the video.
I think there's a good chance he becomes one of Kentucky's more valuable players. Like Otega Owe-esque, different skill sets there. But towards the end of the season, it was clear that like Kentucky needed Otega Owe playing well if they were going to do well. I think Aberdeen could do that for Kentucky as well. He is a bit of a connector and does a little bit of everything. But he made so many key plays for Florida, took it down the stretch of the season. I remember that in the title game, there were a couple of spots where he answered Houston. Where like Houston was starting to kind of squash the Florida run and put some distance back between them, and Aberdeen was one who was making tough plays to keep Florida right in there, to keep answering for Florida. I think that speaks to some mental toughness for him. He did start 5 games for Florida last year, and I'd give a shout out to Jeff Borzello for this. In those 5 starts, he averaged 14.4 points and shot over 41% from three in those 5 starts.
Yeah, I think that portends well, especially when you look at the two times he scored over 20 points a game last season was in that stretch against SEC schools. Granted, one was against South Carolina. No offense to your Gamecocks, but don't know how much you glean from that. But I do think that speaks well in trying to like project a bigger role for him, that he has had high caliber moments in SEC play. He's had nice moments in the tournament as well, like you were getting at. I just think there is somewhat of a bank on his potential here, but it's just hard to doubt what Mark Pope sees in guard targets right now. I thought he got the most out of Otega Owe after there were question marks from him coming out of Norman when he signed with Kentucky. Yeah, maybe there's some question marks here with Aberdeen. How can he scale up the production when you put him in probably like a 25-minute per game role as opposed to, what was he this past year? He was just under 20 minutes per game.
Yeah.
I don't know that actually adds to a greater question, Ralph. When you look at this Kentucky roster right now, still don't know if Owe is going to stay in the draft or if he's coming back. To me, this move might indicate like Owe is going to stay in the draft and bank on himself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you assume that you have Jalon Lowe and Colin Chandler at the 1. Chandler can slide down to the 2 as well. That 2, 3, I would think they'll probably play Jasper primarily as the 2. Maybe right now you're looking at a starting backcourt, like a 3-guard lineup with Jalon Lowe at the 1, Aberdeen at or I guess Chandler at the 2, Aberdeen at the 3. Technically, is that something where like how many minutes do you think that Aberdeen ends up getting just with a backcourt that already has some mouths to feed?
I think that's the interesting side of this is, okay, like if you're Mark Pope, you're Kentucky, what's your best backcourt? What's your best perimeter group? Because you're going to want to throw some of those freshmen out there, but you also just got Lowe and Aberdeen, neither of whom came for small price tags.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a good chance you trot out Lowe at Aberdeen and Owe as your 1, 2, and 3 and tell the freshmen to figure it out from there, right? Because Aberdeen was slated to start at Florida. I do not think he makes this move to come off the bench still. But then again, he is somebody who's a 4-year guy, doesn't have a projected NBA future right now. It could just be one last chance to get paid. And he doesn't care that it might be coming off the bench for Kentucky again. That's on the table. But I have a hard time believing that Pope and Kentucky spent the kind of money that they spent on Lowe and Aberdeen to not have them start. It may signal something about Owe too, certainly. But just from projection standpoint right now, I'd expect Owe to be back. And if that's the case, a Lowe Aberdeen Owe pairing could be clunky, but I think could be pretty solid as well.
Low Aberdeen. Oh, I'm definitely in on Aberdeen and Owe. I need to see Low what he looks like with better talent around him. But I also like
I'm gonna go back to like the November, December, early January version of Lowe, and not the one who was kind of checked out at the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's a really high upside backcourt. It depends on some factors. You know what you're getting with Owe, but it depends
Yeah.
on Aberdeen being able to sustain that production we saw when he was getting starter minutes, and Lowe, like when Pitt was a top 10 team in the net. Are you getting that version of Jalad Lowe? Jalad Lowe can get buckets. It's just some of the shot selection down the stretch was really bad. I think it was reflected in the box score and his percentage.
Yeah.
And I still I don't know. I'm just still a huge believer in what Colin Chandler showed down the stretch, and I want to see him get opportunity as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
which it's nice to have him as another option at the point if Lowe doesn't pan out, to where it I don't know. We'll probably talk about this later this summer when we're doing our backcourt rankings with sleepers. That like on the surface, I probably have that backcourt like no question top 10. You know,
Yeah.
I think in order to get to the top five, like the 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 S tier, so to speak, you want to have a little more, a few more sure things beyond Owe in that backcourt. But it very well could have it be one of the most like the highest upside backcourts in the country if all those factors hit.
Mark Pope, the high upside backcourt. It's high upside season for Kentucky. Denzel Aberdeen figures to be a pretty big part of that.